Hello and welcome to the Photoshop tutorial episode 1. You'll be watching D Newsom FX show you the basics using some tools in here, and this will be a 6 episode series where we'll go over a couple of different things within Photoshop. Some quick things you need to know when starting Photoshop is these kind of presets they have. Depending on what you're trying to create and the background you have, you may find yourself using some of these more than others. For me, I usually create things for videos or animation, so I would say I'm usually in the film and video section. But feel free to check out any of these other templates that you may find useful. They even have business cards set up, so if you need to make a business card, you can find some of those. Today, I'm going to be using the film and video tab using the 1920 by 1080p setup. If you don't want these, and usually I don't use them too often in Photoshop at least, and we won't use them today, you can turn those off by using the View tab up top, and you'll find that there's this little button here called Clear Guides. And boom, they'll go away. We'll be talking about the tools, a couple of tools on my left here, as well as layers today. So the first tool that I would like to show you is the brush tool. You can get there by clicking the letter B. Some of you, if it doesn't look like that, you may have the pencil tool or one of these in here. That's because a lot of our tools have submenus. And you know if it has a submenu if you see this little icon in the corner. It's a little arrow. So if you click and hold on it, you'll see the submenu pop up, and then you can select it from there, and then you're in the brush tool. So for the brush tool, you can either click where it says the number and it has kind of like an icon to see what brush you're on. I have a couple custom brushes that I downloaded, and we can get into that in a later lesson. If y'all are interested in that, please comment so I can make a video specifically on that. But we'll stick with the general brushes today because I want to talk about these two topics here: size versus hardness. So size, pretty self-explanatory. The bigger the size, the bigger that little circle will be. So you can see that slider changes it. You can also type in there. And then we also have the option of hardness, either being 0 all the way up to 100. And just to show you the difference of hardness, I'm going to draw a line with 0 hardness right now. So this is 0 hardness. And then one with 100% hardness. And you can see that the one with 0 hardness has very blurry edges, whereas the one with 100% hardness has very rigid edges and is more kind of straight and solid. Opacity has to do with how opaque your brush will be when painting. So obviously you've seen it at 100% opacity for both of these. If I were to change my opacity setting to, let's say, we'll just say around 50, there we go, you'll see that it's more see-through. If you do it even lower, you'll see it's even more see-through. You can use this for applying shadows, or even, let's say if you're adding just shading on an actual character, that might be useful. Another thing to look at is flow. So I'm going to turn my opacity back up, and flow at 100%. It's kind of the best way to think about it in my way is think about a garden hose. If you just turn it on and it has no kinks, it'll run out fine. But let's say if it has a kink in it, it may kind of sputter out. So you can kind of see each individual circle as I'm drawing there because the flow is being constricted. And the more and more you do it, the kind of less and less you'll see it come out. For this, I would say people use this for shading too. Keep in mind, all of these tools can be used for different reasons, and everyone has a different type of workflow. So those are kind of the basics of the brush tool. If you ever want to check out some of the other brushes, you can find that below where there's different folders. So I have some custom brushes I downloaded that you can kind of play around with, and you can see it gives you like different textures, things like that. Um, so feel free to check all those out. The next thing I want to talk about is layers. So I have one drawing here, and I have my layer over here that shows my drawing. The first thing I always do when going into a composition is I unlock my background layer so I can manipulate it without restrictions. And all you have to do is double click that lock and hit OK on that pop up when it pops up. But let's say if I want to add another layer, I just have to click on this plus sign at the bottom and I'll add layer 1. And I can go down here and change my color. Let's say if I wanted to change it to blue, and then come in here and create a new layer of blue. So now I have my new layer of blue here. And you can see I have layer 0 and layer 1. That will separate it so you can have two separate layers. So say if you're manipulating either a photo or even paint, you can manipulate them differently. And we'll get into more of like adjustment layers and how you can manipulate these type of things in later lessons, but believe me, this is the best way to go. For layer 0, let's say if we just want it to be our drawing and we don't want to have the white background, you can actually take that out. You can take that out using the magic wand tool, which looks like this. So the shortcut for it is W, and you can see it may look like this, which is a quick selection tool. This one also has a sub menu that you can find multiple tools in, and you'll find the magic wand tool in it. Shortcut is W. So what this does is that if I zoom in to explain it better, our whole composition or our canvas is filled with pixels, these little squares. So when you use this magic wand tool, you click in an area, and what it does is that it looks at that pixel specifically, and it looks to see the color information. And if the color in this instance is white, it's going to look around at the other pixels, touching it, and say, oh, is that one white as well? And it'll select all the pixels that are similar in hue. So if I click on that, boom, it'll select all the white. And I can hit delete, and then I can click inside here as well and hit delete. To deselect, if you come to this kind of question of, oh, like I can't get off the selection, you can go up to the word select at the top and hit deselect. So now I have my two drawings without a background, and lastly, let's give it a background color. So it's on its own layer. So let's add a new layer. And I'm going to go to the paint bucket tool, which a lot of you may have used before. So if I click on my gradient tool here, you'll find paint bucket underneath it. So G is the shortcut for it. Whatever color is in the front is what it'll drop in. So I'm going to change my color to be yellow. Oh, what happened? It looks like it got rid of my other layer I had. It's because when you have layers, you have to make sure they're arranged properly. So you can see layer 2 is above my other drawing. So if I were to click and hold on this layer and drag it below layer 0, you'll see it'll bring back my drawing. So that's very important to keep your layers in the right order so they look the way you want them to. You can also rename your layers by double clicking the name, and you can rename them to, I can say background, green, blue. So you can rename them pretty quickly. And for today, I think this would be a good stopping point. So feel free to check out episode 2, where we will talk about more of selection tools and selecting things from photos to manipulate them. So we'll go over the lasso tool. They have a couple of different ones. as well as the clone stamp tool in episode 2. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.